Okay, so yeah, you're very welcome to today's webinar on using Learn with Nala, and this is for tutors. And in particular today, I'm going to be focusing on the tutor view. So recognizing when coursework is completed and recognizing different results for initial and summative assessments. So as you are tutors, you may be already using the Learn with Nala platform, so you might be set up as a registered centre. If you are, you should have got an email from me that would look something like this, where there is a special link, and that link is particularly for your centre. We used to have a platform called Write On, and in that Write On platform, there was a drop-down list of about 190 centres. So we've simplified it now for the registration, that we give you a particular link that's for your centre, so that the learners don't have to go scrolling through a big long list. And we give you a tutor login, so we give you a username and password. So that means as a tutor, you don't need to create your own account. You don't need to enroll into courses. We do all that for you. Now, we will be having a new course coming out next week, Communications Level 3. So when that course is out, we in NALA will enroll you into that course. So you don't need to worry about having to enroll into it yourselves. We'll automatically do that. And if there are any issues, I'm going to put up my email at the end. So if you think that there's a course that's there that you can't see or can't access, just let me know and I'll look into that for you. So yes, it's important to know that if you are set up as a centre, you should get an email like this with a link that you use to create the learner accounts and with your own tutor login. And that link will bring you to a page which looks like this. So there's a form for the learner to fill out. So the learners have to create their own accounts, and the learners would have to fill out information that would include email, their address, PPSN, gender, and that form is, as I say, signed up to your centre. Okay, so in this example, it's Mayo, Sligo, and Leitrim ETB, LEAP. Okay. And just, I suppose, to make you aware that when you do get that link, so that particular centre link, it will bring you to a page, as I say, that looks like this. There's a video at the top of it, and there's some information to fill out there. Now, I will be running another webinar in November, on the 9th of November, where I'll go into this in more detail. Okay, so that's for centres who are new to the platform, how to create a learner account and register for courses. But as tutors today who are hopefully using the platform for a while or might have been set up for a while, just to make a note that if you are in a centre where you might have learners using sharing a PC. So you might have several users on the same PC. I had it noted to me from a centre that, for example, when a learner started to type in the PPSN number here, old PPSN numbers that somebody had previously typed in started to appear. And of course, that is, a GDPR issue. Okay, there's nothing we can do about it from the system. That's unfortunately the browser trying to be really helpful. And we do recommend to use Google Chrome, but other browsers would cause the same issue. So a little bit like physically wiping down tables now with COVID if people are moving on. Just to make sure to avoid that for yourselves, that in Google Chrome, if you go to the three dots here at the side and history again, and clear browsing data, make sure then that the autofill form data is ticked, okay, and then you can clear data. You can also clear the browsing history and download history. Okay, I had just done this this morning before starting, so that's why my form now isn't filling out, okay, but that's what I would need to do. And those steps will be in the recording, which I'll make available after today. Probably next Tuesday it'll be up on the website, so you can follow those steps again. So that was just something to point out to you. Um, so as a centre, you need to create the accounts for your tutors, for your learners, but as a tutor you get your own account. And in the email that goes out to you, we've put in a number of supports on how to create an account, start a course, the different activity types, because we have some new ones on Learn with Nala, and how to enroll in multiple courses, which is a question that we've got in from quite a few centres. So I would recommend to watch that video on how to do it. At the moment, we're working on a process to bundle courses together. So in the next coming weeks, we'll try and have the level 2 courses bundled into a general learning course. If you go to the site courses.nala.ie and go to Start Now, you'll be able to see the courses that are available. So we have a number at level 2, the reading, writing, and so on, and we'll be bundling these, as I say, so that it's just one click instead of, say, 6 clicks. So that there's 6 courses, which is the minimum that you need for a general learning award at level 2. You'll also be able to see information on when other courses are coming out. So the next courses that we're working on, just for your own information, are level 3, personal and interpersonal skills, computer literacy, internet skills, and communications, which we're hoping to have out next week. Okay, so for those who are looking for their major award in general learning, that's one that's part of the mandatory ones to get that award. So hopefully that will help. And we're also working to get some level 1 content out, starting with reading and quantity and number. These courses at the moment won't be accredited by QQI, and that is a process that we'll be looking into into next year, but we're taking the content off the old platform right on and having it available. But certainly for some learners maybe who struggle with level 2, I think these would be nice courses for people to do to get comfortable with the environment and to improve their skills and then progress onto level 2. So I mentioned that video about enrolling in multiple courses and what we're trying to do now to bundle courses together. We also have a video that goes into that email called Tutor Video, which I recommend watching. And I'm going to go through some of those steps today. I should say that if you are in a centre and you're not registered with us yet, which means that you probably haven't got that email, contact me after this webinar today and I will send you out the Memorandum of Understanding form that you can use. You can also access this form if you go to courses.nala.ie, and if you click on Become a Centre, the information is there that you can fill out. Okay, so that'll prompt us to send you an email with a memorandum of understanding. If you are in a centre that is registered, but you're a tutor and you don't have an account yet, contact your centre contact. So there would have been somebody in your centre who would have kicked off this process to allow us to put your centre up there and we can create a tutor account for you. Initially, we had a limit of 5 tutor accounts per centre because we were trying to get centres up and running. And we have about 100 centres up and running now. But now we're opening that up so that all your tutors, if they're interested in using this platform, can use this. So there's no limit. So you can come back to us and we'll set up those accounts for you. So when you are sent that email, you'll be told that you can go to this page where you can log in. Just please make a note that we are saying on this page to use the latest version of Chrome or Edge or indeed Safari or Firefox, and you can click on those links to download and install the latest version. If you forget your password, you can call us on the free phone number and we can reset it for you. Or you can click on Forgot Your Password here and put in the username that you've been given in the email, and that will send an email to you to allow you to reset your password. Okay, so that's important to know as well. We'll give you an initial password when you're starting off, but you can go and change that by clicking on Forgot Your Password if you want. So as a tutor, then, as I say, we create the account for you and enroll you into courses, so you don't need to do that. Obviously, you do need to do that with your learners, though. So you're brought to this page where you put in your username and password that you've been given in the email and log in. Okay. You'll be able to see the courses in the same way that the learners see it. So if I click on any of the courses and content, I'll be able to see the first block called What Do I Already Know, and all the lessons as well. Okay, and I can click in and out of these on any of the screens to see the type of content that the learners would see, and I can go back and forth as I want. It's important to note that this block called What Do I Already Know is our initial assessment. And this is what we call our recognition of prior learning block. So it means that if a learner already has some skills in quantity and number, they could do this block and do the tasks that are there. In this case, there's 7. And each of those tasks maps to a learning outcome from QQI, and maps to a lesson here. We do recommend to do this block because it's a way you can use it as a diagnostic to see where there may be skills and maybe where skills need to be brushed up. It also means that if learners have never got certification, but they have some prior knowledge, they could quite quickly get through the course if they had got all these tasks right, because it's when all of these are right, then an end test will appear at the end of the lesson. And then the learner would do that end test to then get the full QQI award. I will send these slides out to everybody that's registered for this webinar today. So to note in the slide, our pathway to course completion is to make sure that all the tasks are answered correctly in the block What Do I Already Know. If that happens, then this end test will appear. Okay. And then the learner, if they want, can go straight to the end test and get all the questions right. Or if they get them wrong, they can redo the questions as many times as they need. The other options to get through the course would be to get, if the tasks were answered incorrectly, then the learner would need to do all the lessons if they got all of them wrong. And by going through all the lessons, then the end test would appear, and then the learner could finish the course. Or what happens most often is that some people get some of the questions wrong and some of the questions right. So then it's a combination of getting some things right in the tasks and then going through those lessons. So for example, it says here, if task 2 result is go to lesson, then the learner needs to do lesson 2. So basically, we're looking at it, as I say, as a diagnostic that the learner has failed a task that's in here. So they need to brush up their skills. And to do that, then they would have to do lesson 2. And it's only by doing that lesson then and any other lessons that are based on tasks that they've failed, then the end test will appear. And at level 2, there isn't that much portfolio work. Listening and speaking and writing have portfolio work, but the other courses don't. At level 3, there is a lot more portfolio work because obviously it's a higher level. So it requires that there's successful completion of the end test and portfolio work to be forwarded for a QQI award. And we in NALA would go and check these results and obviously are checking the portfolio work. And we would have our own internal verification and external authenticator come in. And when the work has been validated, then we automatically forward the learner for that QQI award. So there isn't anything else that the learner needs to do or any forms that they have to fill out. And there is a webinar that was just held earlier this morning which went into detail on the portfolio work that's available to date. And the recording of that webinar is going to be available in the coming days. If you go to nala.ie, you can see under our upcoming events, events that are happening, which includes the next one for anybody who's new to the platform on the 9th of November. But if you go to view all events and go to past events, like this one that just happened, then the recording will go in down here. Okay, so I definitely recommend reviewing that if you're thinking to put any learners through for certification. And our next round is going to be the 8th of November. So at that point, we'll do our IV and EV and make sure that all the learners' work is correct before submitting for QQI. Of course, the learners can go on and work on content over the course of the year as they need, but we only have those round IV and EA sessions twice a year. So that means that there's 2 occasions whereby we'll be submitting work. So if I go to my NALA site, which I have here, okay, so I can click on login from the courses site, or I can go to the learn.nala.ie. And what you'll notice is for your tutor account, there should be a banner up there for your centre, and you'll be, as I say, automatically enrolled into courses. If you want to see the progress for a learner, unfortunately, you can only see it at the moment on a per course level. Okay, so you would have to know what learners are enrolled into what courses. Now, if the learners are coming into your centres or you're doing Skype calls with them, the learner themselves can see progress across all their courses when they log in. So if I go to, for example, this learner account, and as a learner, if I click up here beside my name and progress, then I can see all the courses that I'm enrolled in down the side here, and I can click onto these and then get a view of my progress in that course. Okay, the view that you're going to see in a minute will be the exact same view, only you're looking at it through a tutor lens. But unfortunately, you won't be able to see all the different courses per learner. Okay, you'll have to go in to the course and then see what's happening for all the learners enrolled in that course. But I think it's useful for you to know that the learner can do this, or maybe if you're working alongside the learner or they've shared their password with you and they're comfortable for you to log in, you'll be able to see it this way as well. Okay, so you'll be able to see if they've done anything under grades or content, get a percentage idea of how much they've done, and then you can click on the different courses and get an idea. Okay, so that's the learner view of progress. The other way that the learner can see the progress for themselves is if they click on home and click into a particular course, and they can click on my progress and they get that same view. Okay, so if I log in with my test account, my test tutor account, okay, just to say as well, this has gone out in our e-zine, and for those of you who are in centres that are not ETBs, we have added a block called additional information because we have a requirement to gather information about highest level of educational attainment, and other details because we are a SOLAS funded programme. You won't see this information if you're in an ETB because you're already filling out details in a PLSS learner detail form. So the PLSS is a system whereby learner data is entered in for all learners who are accessing courses in the further education and training sector. So that block has gone up for those of you who are in centres that are not ETBs, and you can give us a call on the free phone number 1800 20 20 65 if you have any questions about that information. So to view progress then, click on a course and click on Course Admin and Class Progress. Okay, and here you will see all the learners that are enrolled in your course, and you'll get an idea of what's going on for the learner. You'll notice that for two of the learners here, there's no grades, while these learners at the top here have grades. The grades refers to graded items. So in Learn with Nala, the only items that get a grade or a score are the tasks from that first block, What Do I Already Know?, which is our initial assessment, and the end test questions are summative assessment. All the other screens in lessons aren't graded, so they don't appear here. Okay, so if I see this, for example, when I log in, I can already start to get a sense that this learner probably hasn't done, well, they haven't done anything because they haven't logged in, they have no grades, they haven't visited any of the content, whereas this learner has logged in, and if I click on them and go to content, I can see the block here, What Do I Already Know?, which they haven't tried, which makes sense because we didn't see any grades for tasks here, so they haven't attempted it. And that's okay. The learner doesn't necessarily have to do that block either. We just recommend it as a way of getting through and getting a diagnostic, but they don't necessarily have to do it either. What I can see is that this learner has done 100% of lesson 1, and they've done 36% of lesson 2. And if I click on the arrow here, I can see how long they've spent on each of the screens. Okay, so interestingly, they didn't spend any time on these screens at all. They might have just clicked through it. So that's something to be aware of, that they can do that. I can see screens that they've never visited, so they gave up really at this point. And I can see that they spent a little bit longer on this screen. And if I click on it on the screen, it brings me to that screen. So I can see that this one is an activity where they need to drag and drop items from the left to the right. So you would expect that it would take somebody, 20, 30 seconds or more to do that. So that's just to give you an idea maybe what's happening for a learner. So if I just go into course admin and go into class progress again and just go back to that learner's progress. And content, and open up that lesson 2. Okay, so that means that they've had a good stab at it. What I would say is that if somebody hasn't done anything on a screen, I would question why. Was there something on it that was difficult? Or if they're spending a very long time on it, if they're spending several minutes, is there something that's difficult? You'll see if you're doing maths, if in your centre, maths at level 3, some of the tasks in the lessons are quite difficult, and that's because they are junior cert level maths and they require a calculator and some calculations to be done. So you would expect those tasks to take quite a bit of time. So yes, I suppose looking at the content in this way gives you a good idea maybe what that learner is doing and where they're at. The other thing to note while we're looking at this is that some centres may have allowed learners to go in and create accounts as independent learners during the start of lockdown back in March, and then maybe the centre was registered and up and running with the centre link, and now tutors would like learners moved from those independent accounts into their centre account so that they can view their progress. If a learner has already done some work, like this learner here, that work will be lost. Okay, so that's just something to bear in mind. We can move the learner, there's no problem with that at all, but the work may be lost. So what I would suggest is that if you have a learner like that who has an independent learning account, so they haven't used the link, they've simply gone to courses.nala.ie, maybe ask them if you can go in and just check their progress, and then you can have a conversation with them. Are they happy to lose that and start again, or would they like to stay as an independent learner? If they haven't done that much, then they may be happy to start again. Or what I often say is, if they do in their new account under the center, if they use the block what do I already know, and they got the tasks right, then they wouldn't have to go through the lessons necessarily. Okay, so that can be used as a fast track through the system. The best scenario is really for learners to be in your center, to be connected to your center, having used the center link, that you can monitor the progress, that if we have any issues with the portfolio work, that we can contact you in the center. So yeah, do bear that in mind. So if I go back to class progress again and have a look at the progress for some other learners, for example, this one who we know has some grades. Okay, the first thing I might do is just look at content just to get an overall view of what they've done. Okay, so I can see that they've done that first initial assessment. They have done some of lesson 1 and some of lesson 2. Okay, and the end test is listed here. You'll note it says here conditionally released. What that means is that this end test will only appear based on either getting all the lessons right, or some of the all of the lessons right, all of the lessons done, or some of the tasks right and some of the lessons done. Okay, so there's a condition. It doesn't automatically appear. So if I want to see what grades this learner got then, because they've attempted this, but they haven't done anything on the end test, I can click on grades. And if I go to other items, the tasks that they've done are listed there. So in this particular case, the learner has passed everything. Okay. Now we saw from the content that they had done some work on lesson 1 and some on lesson 2, but they hadn't done anything for lesson 3 and 4, yet the end test was listed. That's because they passed everything here. Okay, so that learner wouldn't necessarily have to do lesson 3 and 4. They could just go straight into the end test and go and do those questions. If we look at another account, okay, again, the first thing I would do as a tutor is look at content, just to get an overview of what they're doing. So I can see they've done that first initial assessment, but they haven't done any lessons at all. Oh, apologies, they've done lesson 4, and they've done some of the end test, but not quite all of it. Okay, so then I'm interested to know, okay, how many of these tasks did they get right or wrong? So I can go to grades, go to other items, and I can see here that they did get question 4 wrong. It comes up as go to lesson, which means they need to go to lesson 4. Just to note that the status of this will never change. So even if the learner then goes into content and goes to lesson 4, it will always stay as go to lesson here. Okay, it will always recognize that they have failed that task, but that's okay. The goal, if they want to get through the complete course, is to get that end test to appear, and that's what that learner had to do to get the end test to appear. So if I click just back there again, just to say the other things that you can see in here which might be interesting is you can see the login history. So you can see how many sessions they've had, when they've logged into it, when they've accessed the system as well. Okay, and then for the grades, So we've talked about the tasks, which are under other items. So that's for the what do I already know block. And then the questions are the results from the end test. So there's only 4 QQI learning outcomes in this course. So there's 4 lessons, 4 tasks, and 4 end questions. And they have passed everything, which is why their status is successful. You'll notice the little red bar here, and when I hover over it, that's noting that task 4 was failed. So it's okay to fail one of the tasks. That status, as I say, will always stay in the system, but overall, then that learner is successful. So what would happen now for that learner account is that we in NALA would go in and check all the work, make sure that everything is okay. We're checking like the question test results and the login times and so on. And if everything does seem to be okay and we do our IV and EA, then we would automatically forward that learner for a QQI award. Okay. At level 2, it's a little easier to monitor because there's shorter courses and less question and task items. It gets a little bit harder at level 3, particularly in a course like maths or our new one, communications. So maths at level 3, if you were to look up the QQI descriptor, it has 21 learning outcomes. And those learning outcomes are grouped into sections. So when I'm looking at it as a tutor, I think it's useful for you to go in and just get familiar with how things are grouped. So there's section 1, number, 2, measurement, 3, algebra. And if I click on those sections, then the lessons are within it. So lessons 1 to 5 is number, 6 to 11 is measurement, and so on. Okay. As a result, for maths, we've created 5 end tests. So the learner could do all the end tests in one go, or they might do tasks 1 to 5 here. If they get everything right, then the end test relating to those number tasks will appear, and they could go and do that end test. Or they might have got some questions wrong, in which case they'd have to go in and focus on these lessons and then go and do the number end test. And then the same for measurement. They could focus on the measurement area and go and do that. We created it like this based on feedback and write on. At level 3, we double the number of questions because the stakes are higher. And it is a higher level. As I say, it's like junior cert. So we have 2 questions for every learning outcome. So since there's 21 learning outcomes in maths, then there's 42 questions in the end test. And we just felt that it was too much to ask any learner to sit down and go through 42 questions in a row. So that's why we've done it like this, so that we split it up. If I log in just to my own account for a minute, and I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so if I go to maths, and just to note as well that we have different variants of the maths. So they're all the same course and it's all the same content, but there is a north, south, and distance version of it. So if you're a centre that's in the north of the country, you'll see this little N symbol. If you're a centre in the south of the country, you'll see the south. Apologies if you are a centre in the north of the country and you end up having S beside your name. It may have been that you were grouped, because we're trying to dimension it so that we don't have too many centres accessing a course. It's to do with the learner numbers and so on. So that's what that means. But if I go here to content and show you this view, okay, so we can see that there's an end test for number, and that's going to have 2 questions for each learning outcome. There's one for measurement of capacity, again, 2 questions for each learning outcome. and for algebra, 2 questions for each learning outcome. Okay. So if I want to look at the progress then for those learners, again, I go to course admin, class progress, and just change to another center here because I have multiple centers against this, and I can see all the learners that are enrolled. I can use my mouse to hover over and see how they got on. Note as I'm doing that, it says task, and that's what's in red. Okay, I can do the same for this one, and I see questions that are passed, and I see some things that are in red for questions. So let's look into that learner and then look at content first, just to see what's happening overall. I can see they've done all the tasks. They've done some of the lessons. So they've done lesson 8. Okay, so I need to click on the arrow to open up the lessons within the section. They've done 18 and they've done 21. Okay, and they've also done some of the end tests. So you might be advising a learner. Maybe it's somebody who has completed this and wants to know what to do next. Okay, so maybe they've had a go and they're not really understanding this grading thing here. So what I would do as a tutor is go in, just see first of all, have they done it? Then go to grades. Then go down to other items, and I would load by clicking on load more all the tasks so I see all of them. And then I would look along and see, well, are all 21 tasks listed here? If there's a task not listed, it means that the learner hasn't done that particular task. So they'd have to go into that block, click on the task number that's left and go and do it. Okay, so just with my eye here, I can see that all the tasks are there. And I can see that some of them are go to lesson. So 21, 18, and 8. So I would be telling that learner, okay, if you want to progress through this course now, you need to do lesson number 8, lesson number 18, and lesson number 21. Okay, and then they could go and do that, and then those end tests would appear and they could have a go with them. In looking at the end test results, okay, so that will be under grades and graded items and load more. Okay, so then I can see that there's question number 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, and so on. And remember, as I showed, that there's different end tests. So, and there's 5 of them. So I'm looking for ones to do with number, ones to do with algebra, data, and problem solving. Okay, and I need to see the grade for each of them. And I think it's probably easiest if learners attempt, one end test at a time. So, for example, if they've already gone and done number, and in this case, it looks like the learner has passed everything, then great. So they don't need to do that one again. In algebra, they've passed some of them, but they need to redo question 3.1. Okay. There's another way that you can view all of this as well, if you like, and I'll show you that before I go in to the learner account and show how to redo. So you can click on grades, and here you can see all the learners that are enrolled in that course, but you see a grade view. So you can scroll across and you can get a nice visual for that learner as well. So that's another way of viewing the same information if you want. Okay, so that there was for that learner, I was talking about task 18 and 21 that they had failed. And here I can see that there's quite a few questions on measurement that they haven't done. And if I keep scrolling, Okay, so in algebra, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. There should be 6. Yeah, 6 altogether. So this learner would need to redo question 1.1 and question 3.1. So I can see from this view that that's what they need to do. So then I would log in as that learner, and you can talk them through this. So I can log in with my learner account, go straight to maths, then go to content, then go to that algebra end test and go to that question. Now notice there is a tick there. The tick means that the learner might have viewed the page but not necessarily done the question. Okay, so they may not have got a score. So don't use the ticks as a guide. It just means that they viewed work but not necessarily done it. Use the view where we're looking at the grades to be your guide. So if I click on that, okay, and then there's a question here that they need to try, which I will give a go. Okay, and I got my score. Now, and we know that there was another one that they needed to try, 3.1, which I can skip through. And do retake content and then try that out. Okay. And I'm not even sure what the answers are for these. But anyway, if I tried it out and hopefully if I'd got it right, then what I would do is go back to my progress. So this is the learner, and go to grades, and I should at least see that question 1.1 is right. Okay, so you can decide as a tutor, when it comes to the end tests, you could get the learner to focus in directly into the question that they failed, or they could even retake the whole thing again by clicking on retake content for each screen. But only their highest grade will ever be held, which means that if they got it right first time round and on the second attempt got it wrong, it'll only hold the grade from before, from that first attempt. So it's always the highest grade. So it could be good practice for them to go through it several times. And behind every question 1.1 here, there's actually 3 questions. So it's randomized what appears on the screen. So they wouldn't necessarily get the same question the second time round. So it is giving them a good test. So that's how you view progress. We're, I suppose, interested to know how we in NALA can help you a bit more. So I'm going to launch a poll now, which I'd like you to think about. So the first question that's coming up is about what's the biggest barrier for you at the moment to getting learners started on Learn with NALA? Is it a lack of time? Is it lack of resources? Or is it something else? So it could be uncertainty from learners sharing PPSNs. It could be other priorities at the moment, obviously with families. If it's something else, feel free to put your comment into the questions box, or any other thoughts that you have on this. So I'll give you another second or two just to think about that. So from what I see at the moment with the answers coming in, it mostly seems to be lack of time, and I appreciate that there's a lot of reporting, preparing, and even with the COVID situation in itself is a lot to manage at the moment. And the other thing is that other priorities at the moment due to COVID is coming out. Okay, so, but the top answer seems to be lack of time. Okay, so thank you for your answer on that. And then I've one more poll, and it's about how we in NALA can help you. At the start of the call today, I was talking to my colleague Fergus about a tool called Bongo, which we'd hope that we can launch sometime next year, which would be a system of having webinars within the system. But we would like to know, is there more webinars that we can do with you? Would you like dedicated time that we spend with you, with your learners, Q&A sessions for your centre tutors, phone support for your learners, or something else that you think would really help? Feel free to type your comment into the questions box. Okay, so I'll just give you another minute or two to think about that. Okay. So what seems to be coming in is that Q&A sessions would help with centre tutors, and certainly you can email me after today, and I would be very happy to set up a Teams call with you and other tutors in your centre and go through any questions that you have about how you're using the system in your centre. Also coming through is more webinars, and I would definitely say to keep an eye on the NALA site to do so, to find out more about what's coming up. Okay, so thank you very much for your time on it. As I say, I would recommend to go to nala.ie and go to our events area. When this webinar has been processed today after the recording, I'll put it up here, which will either be today or next Tuesday, and I can send you a link to it. I'm going to open it up now for questions. So you can raise your hand if you have a question. I'm also going to go through if there are any questions in the questions box. Okay, I don't see any questions at the moment. So as I say, I'll open it up to you and I can unmute you. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Okay. So I've unmuted everybody now, so feel free to come in. And just while you're maybe thinking about that, I should also say that we have on the home page of the site just very recently added under help a new course where you can step through everything. Fiona, do you have a question for us? I see your hand up.
Hi, Katrina. How are you? Katrina, do you know, I was using Right-Hand before for a group, and I found that there was a lot of guesswork. Do you know, they might go on. I had taken over from somebody, so I wasn't really familiar with Right-Hand at the time. And then when I noticed was with the learners, they were going on to Right-Hand and they were guessing. They weren't really. And then if the question was wrong, they'd try it again and again and again. So is that kind of element of it gone from this new setup? Because I'm really interested in this. It looks very good.
Yeah, that's a very good question. What I would say is that if you're viewing the progress, so for example, if I go to here into a course and the course admin, and I can look at it, grades, or as I say, the progress, but the progress view will be able to show or tell me how long somebody's spending on particular content. Now note that a learner could they could do exactly like you say and just go through all the content without really trying it, but you will be able to see that they've only spent, like here, okay, they've spent maybe 1 minute 48 seconds because maybe they were reading everything on the screen, but on this one they've only spent 8 seconds. So you'd be questioning then, well, did they really try that activity or not? And when you click onto it, it'll bring you into the activity. So if it's only a short piece of information, maybe they did get through it in 8 seconds, but if it's something like where they have to drag and drop things, yeah,
And
then
will it show how many attempts they took at getting an answer? Do you know that
um,
type of thing?
yeah, you can see here the number of visits that they've done to a page. Okay, so here I can see that this learner has visited it once. Um, Now there is within the activity, so if I click into it, there's usually always a try again option. So if
Okay.
I'm not really
But
trying this myself
will
now.
it show us how often they try again?
It won't show that, I don't think, no. So if
Okay.
I happen to get everything right there, but if I do try again, I don't think it's going to show that. But if I was to click out of it and go back to it, you would be able
Okay.
to see then
Then they have
the
two or
number of
three
visits.
visits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Okay.
I would use the timing as a guide for you, along with
Okay.
the I suppose the site visits to give you an idea.
Okay.
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 And
That's
and Fiona, if you have any, questions in your centre about it, particularly because you used Right On before, and there's a lot of centres that would have come over from Right On into this now,
yeah.
you can email me afterwards and I'm happy to set up a call with you on Teams and we can go through, that transition where maybe things looked maybe a little bit different on
Yeah.
Right On.
And with
Yeah,
Katrina, I might wait. Yeah. I might have a look at that. We're off next week, so I'll have a look at this and see how, because I have a group that it may suit.
yeah,
So I'm going to see if I can use it for one particular group, and see how I get on.
great. Okay, thank you,
That's
Fiona.
lovely. Thank you, Katrina. Thank you.
There was a question that had come in from Jean as well about further resources that you can use. So we are, as I say, in the process of updating on the home page when you go to help and putting a course in here called Learn with Nala. As a tutor, you'll be able to access a tutor guide, which I've also put into the handout section of this webinar today. So you'll be able to download that. And that tutor guide will go through a lot of frequently asked questions that we're getting in. So I would recommend going through that. If you click on this one here, it's our Learn with Nala help course. Okay, and then you can step through this as a learner and have a look at some of the content. So we have information about recognition of prior learning. So that's our what do I already know block about getting a QQI award and tutor support. So we're updating that all the time. And also as a tutor, it should say that we are now launching CPD courses. So you can sign up in your own right as a tutor for a tutor account by going to the CPD section of courses.nala.ie. And if you go to tutor courses, you'll see that we have one on integrating literacy. So if you think of it like this, that we give you an account as a tutor that you can use for Learn with Nala, but then in your own right as an individual, you can sign up for these courses at any time. And there's a lot of CPD courses that we're working on. So we have ones on integrating literacy, preparing literacy materials. There'll be other ones on plain English and indeed even using the site itself that will be coming in the coming months and into next year as well. So yeah, keep an eye out on those courses.nala.ie, and you would need to register then your own tutor account for that. So we're just coming up to 2 o'clock now. If there's no further questions, I might wrap it up there. And yeah, thank you very much for your time today. When this webinar closes, a short survey will come up, and feel free to put any comments into that survey. And as I say, if you want to contact me, my email is cwhelan@nala.ie. If you have questions about the MOU and getting registered as a centre, go to mou@nala.ie. And for free phone queries that you and learners can use, go to our free phone at nala.ie. And anything to do with membership, you can contact my colleague, Margaret Murray. And I will send out a link to this when it's processed and the slides as well so that you have it. And thank you very much for your time today. And for those of you that came in on Monday, thank you for coming back again. We really appreciate it. And any feedback that you have, you can send on to me as well. Okay. Thank you and bye-bye and have a good long weekend.